Hello, it's Nathan here, your friendly neighborhood trance worker, and today we're going to be talking about different states of awareness. But before we jump into talking about alpha states and theta states and gamma states, really interesting stuff to me anyway, I want to address a couple of things that have come up in our previous workshops. And as always, I like to have engaged work sessions and workshops. So it's important to always share with me and let me know what you think of what I'm saying. If you have any opinions or thoughts or feedback yourself, I'd love to hear from you. I'll try to keep an eye on the comments down here. It's more fun to have an interactive kind of work session than just to talk at the camera. So, hey, Jesse, let's talk about states of awareness. But yes, first of all, I want to address a question that was brought up. In the previous exercise, I took you through some visualization. I took you through a practice where you could try and visualize your environment around you, your home, your neighborhood, your world. Some people find when they do that it's a little bit difficult. They have challenges. Everything is dark. They have feelings of resistance, whatever it might be. In trance work, we like to teach that those things are okay. Whatever you experience when you go into a trance state is what you are going to experience. It's what you need to experience. That resistance, that frustration, those feelings. Hi, Pia. Thank you. We'll see you soon. When we experience those resistance points, well, those are important messengers. In fact, in a way, those messages that we receive from our minds, from our bodies, from our spirits, when we go within, when we go to that trance place, that astral space, as we sometimes call it, whenever we do that, we are interfacing with our subconscious mind. So it's really important to listen to those messages. We don't like to ignore what's coming up within us. That's not what we do in trance work. We listen. We listen to what our bodies and minds and our hearts are telling us. So if something comes up and you try to do these exercises, if you find that what I'm guiding or suggesting that you do, if that doesn't resonate, then it's more important for you to honor yourself, honor your body, honor your own heart. It's more important than that you follow along with some general guidance that I'm giving. So all that's to say, if you find that you have trouble with the visualization aspects, just honor your own experience when we do that. So yes, let's talk about different states of awareness. So what we'll be doing is we'll talk about some of the different types of trance states that we like to cultivate and induce in Akashic Trancework, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we can do that. I'll actually take you through some exercises that will demonstrate just how easily you can go into a trance state pretty much anytime, any place, in the woods, in your bedroom, in the back of a car. Don't do it while you're driving. No trancing while driving. Number one rule right there. Safety first. But most of the time, you can get into an alpha state very easily. So let's talk about that a little bit. Most of you, at least some of you, are probably at least somewhat familiar with the idea of brain waves, right? Our brains have electromagnetic signatures that can be read on a machine. It's called an EEG. It measures the frequency output of the brain. These frequencies can determine, or in many ways are determined by, our state of mind. If we're in a deep sleep, if we're not dreaming, if we're in a repair state, they say that we're in a delta state. That's your lowest vibrational state. It's a very important place to be. Hopefully you get at least 5 or 6 hours of delta sleep each night. You really do need it. The rest of that time is usually spent in a theta state. Now, theta states are kind of like the sweet spot of trance work that many people talk about. It's that place where you're dreaming. You're dreaming when you're in a theta state. Now, when we induce theta states in trance work, it's a little bit different from a dream because there's still an aspect of conscious awareness. understand and recognize that we're never exclusively in an alpha state or a theta state or a delta state. We have all of these different vibrations, these frequencies present all the time in our brains. It's just that when one or more of them is more dominant than another one, then we'll be in the state that's associated with that brain wave pattern. Hey, Timmy. So all this science stuff is to say that we can actually use our knowledge of the different brainwave patterns to induce these different states in ourselves without having to fall asleep. Sleep is all well and good, but most of us don't really remember our dreams very well. And if we do, they can be hard to decipher. So in a way, what we're doing in trance work is trying to get ourselves into a state where we can actively vision, actively experience and express and explore our inner worlds and bring something up. That's why we call it an Akashic experience. We're going within and we're bringing something up. So let's talk about these different states. We talked about the delta state a little bit, and we talked about the theta state a little bit. The alpha state is a very important pattern that is not often given the recognition that it should. The alpha state is where you daydreamers go, right? Those of you who kind of tend to kind of space off a little bit. You're going into an alpha state, or if you're good at meditating, you're going into an alpha state. I do want to kind of talk about meditation here a little bit as it relates to these different states. Meditation is one form of trance state induction, right? Meditation is an entrainment method. It allows you to alter your state of consciousness to access these other states. So it's not the only way. There are many ways that people induce trance states all the time. You might go into a trance while you're driving down the road. You might go into a trance while you're watching television. You might go into a trance right before you go to sleep. Most people go into this theta place that's kind of warm and cozy. So you go into these different states all the time. In trance work, we want to learn how to get there deliberately because these different states are good for different things. So we talked about the delta state, and we don't usually try to induce the delta state very much because, well, that's a repair state. There's not a lot of active communication happening there. Now, there can be some entrainment that happens on the physical cellular level in a delta state, in a deep sleep. That's the great place for sound healing, energy healing, things like that. Very receptive, not a lot of analytical stuff going on in the mind. It's a very good place to be if you need to just kind of sit back and receive. When we want to have a more active experience, when we want to be more engaged with our inner world, our astral space, as we like to call it sometimes, then the theta place is where we want to be. The problem is that it can be difficult to communicate with others about what's going on in our theta states. That takes some time and some training to be able to really go into a theta state and bring something out. Most people don't remember a lot of details. And that's why it can be helpful to work with a guide, like a shaman or a hypnotist or just a friend who's listening to you. You can even record yourself talking about what's happening in your theta states. And that's a technique that we do teach. We have videos online. Oh, Sky, you're going into a float tank? That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. We have one nearby that we're hoping to try out very soon. So yeah, that's one example of a way that you can induce a theta state by depriving yourself of all the other senses. These are sensory capacities. And when we take ourselves out of our physical senses and go within, then we are reaching that theta state. So yes, theta states are amazing, but alpha states should not be disregarded because the alpha state, that daydreamy place, is very powerful because that's the place where we can intentionally imagine. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Imagine an ice cream cone, your favorite flavor. Maybe you don't like ice cream. Imagine something else if you want to, but I like ice cream. So just indulge me for a moment and just try to imagine an ice cream cone. And as soon as you do that, all kinds of other associations and memories and things begin to bubble up. Maybe you have some emotional association with ice cream cones. But that alpha state is very powerful because it means that you can go into a trance state quite literally just by closing your eyes and taking a few breaths. You choose to go into a trance state. So most of what we teach in trance work is not getting into a trance state. What you find if you work with us or you work with this type of trance work in general, you'll find that you can get there very easily. The question becomes, what do we do once we get to those places? What do we do with all the information that arises in our inner space? And that's where things get interesting. But we're not going to talk about that too much yet. For today, for the time that we have left, we have about 15 more minutes left that I want to devote to this. Hi, Mihaela. Am I saying that right? Mihaela? Hello. So what I would like to demonstrate for all of you is some simple techniques that you can use to induce different trance states. And these are so interesting that I actually will devote the next couple of lessons that we do to expounding on these things. So all you need to do if you want to engage in this, and if you're not in a place where you can do this right now, then you can sit back and relax and just kind of watch. This will be recorded and you can watch it later if you would like to. So if you're just joining us, we're going through some very basic self-induction techniques that you can use anytime, any place, except while driving, to get yourself into an alpha state or a theta state. There are other states that you can get to. The gamma state is notable for that place we get to when we start to cultivate our heart centers quite a bit. But usually we aren't going to try to induce that gamma state. We're going to primarily focus on the alpha and theta states, and those are the things that can get us into that gamma state, that flow state, which we'll talk about later. So if you're in a place where you would like to participate, find a nice relaxed place, sit back. You want good back and neck support for this. Turn down the lights a little bit. Make sure you don't have any distractions. Hopefully it's fairly quiet, but if there's some noise, that's fine too. Everything that happens around you when you're going into these states is supposed to happen. So I invite you to just sit back and take a few nice, natural, deep breaths. And if you like, you can close your eyes, or you can just find a spot on the ceiling or the wall to fixate your eyes on. Just breathing naturally. I'm going to ask you to breathe in a certain rhythm now. Make sure that you feel comfortable with this breathing pattern and adjust it as needed. We're going to be breathing in for 4 counts, breathing out for 4 counts, with just a pause between each inhalation and each exhalation. So to begin, just take a nice natural breath in and out. Breathe in now. 1, 2, 3, 4. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4. In. 1, 2, 3, 4. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4. In. 1, 2, 3, 4. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just continue to breathe at your own pace. Allow yourself to just wander. Allow your mind to just wander. Your thoughts and feelings will arise naturally. There may be distractions. Just follow your breath and observe how it makes you feel. Observe how just shifting your breath, shifting your breathing, changes your consciousness. Make note of any interesting things that arose in your mind and your heart when you were doing that. It might be important. And now I'd like to invite you, again, pay attention to your breath. Don't breathe any deeper than is comfortable for you. But for this, I would like to invite you to breathe for 7 counts in and 7 counts out. This will assist you in inducing a near theta state to access your deeper dream consciousness, your subconscious mind. So let's try this together. Just take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just continue to breathe on your own. It's okay if your head begins to droop a little bit. It's okay to rest back. Just let your mind wander. Whatever feelings and thoughts are supposed to be there, just let them be. You are exactly where you are supposed to be right now. So take a deep breath. Release. Bring yourself back to a fully alert state. Move your neck, move your fingers a bit. You may not have realized how relaxed you were until you opened your eyes and moved around. Those theta states can take you a little bit unawares at first. It can be a little bit jolting to come out of them after not realizing that you were in one, right? So I invite you to play with your breath, play with the different ways that your breathing patterns can affect your consciousness. We'll actually do an entire lesson on inducing different trance states with the breath. We dive into these things. So what I would like to do is show those of you who are with us still another form of trance induction that some of you may be less familiar with. I know that many of you are probably familiar with the practice of toning, of vibrating into the body. Those of you who aren't, it's a little bit like singing, but it's not singing. We're not performing. We're not trying to sound good, although sometimes it can sound very melodic and harmonious. Not always, though. It can sometimes sound a little bit jarring. And that's okay, because we're vibrating into the different parts of our bodies with our voices. Everyone has a vocal range. You can pitch your voice very high and pitch it very low. Now, how high or low that range goes will depend on your lung capacity, your gender, a lot of different things. So you don't really want to force yourself beyond that range. But exploring that range can be very powerful. Those of you who are vocalists already understand this, right? Toning is great because sometimes breathing doesn't quite get us there, especially if our minds are very distracted. It can be difficult to just breathe ourselves into a trance state. If it was always easy to breathe into a trance state, then we would do it all the time. A gong sound, yes. We're pretty much talking about ways we can self-induce just using our bodies, but there are many external ways that you can go into a trance state. Binaural beats, sound healing. We use crystal singing bowls quite often. in our practice, there are many ways you can induce a trance state. Music famously induces a trance state. And that's really what we're talking about, is the power of sound, the power of vibration, and how it can change our consciousness. Many of you may have done some kind of toning or chanting along your chakra lines, right? So if you're familiar with that idea, this will, well, resonate with you, right? Because this is how we move into different dimensions of consciousness, is through this vibration. You know, oftentimes you say everything is vibration. That's not an abstract concept. We vibrate ourselves with our words, with our voices, with our tones all the time. So the way that we can just do this with our voices is just to tone into different parts of our bodies. We built these practices from observation, primarily the different breathing patterns, the different tones that we use. We observed how they affected us and how they affected our clients and our clients and our friends, people that we worked with. We came to understand how the tones affect us, how the different vocal tones affect us. So let's talk about two. So we talk about the theta frequency and the alpha frequency. So the alpha frequency is a bit higher and more active. And you can feel it vibrating in your face. You don't have to use words for this. It helps to modulate the tone, right? It helps you to keep the tone longer. So if you modulate, so that will induce an alpha state. Might sound funny, doesn't matter what it sounds like to other people. You're vibrating into your face, and you should be able to feel it here. You should be able to feel it in your forehead, in your eyes, in your nose, in your neck. Yeah, it does sound funny. I don't care if it sounds funny. It feels good. It feels like I'm getting into an alpha state. It raises my energy. It raises my vibration. I'm not a singer. I don't try to be a singer, but I like to tone. And I do other things with toning. It is kind of the beginning of practices like light language, trusting the voice, allowing your voice to flow. It makes you more eloquent. It makes you more verbal and more verbose. It makes you higher vibrational. It brings your vibration up. So, yes, that's alpha toning, but sometimes we don't want to alpha tone. We want to bring ourselves down into a theta state and become more relaxed. And that is a much lower pitch, a much more relaxed tone that you can feel in your heart. Notice how differently you feel here than here, here than here, here than here. You feel differently. There's different pitches and tones. It's fun, you know. Children love to participate in toning. This is the theta tone right about here. If you do it just right, you should be able to feel the vibration in your hands, your arms, your chest. You really want to tone right down about here. Try and push the tone down about there. The more you do that, the deeper into a theta state you'll go. You can put yourself to sleep that way too. If you tone even lower, it will be very grounding, and your be able to bring yourself into that delta state with enough toning to put yourself to sleep and probably start snoring. I find most people tend to snore in the deep delta. So this is how we activate and actualize trance states. So we have a little bit of time left, and I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to invite those of you who are watching this still, whether you're live or watching this as a replay, to do a little bit of toning practice with me just for the next few minutes. You may want to warn people in the next room or bring them in on the madness because it's a lot of fun. I love toning, and it really gives us a chance to express in ways that we often don't as adults. So I'll be bringing in a little bit of light language into this too, to try and just demonstrate how when you bring the voice up and down the vocal tract, and then you bring it back down, about how you change your vibration just using the voice. Don't sing it. Vibrate it. I want does not have to be loud like that either. I know I'm kind of loud, but it can be nice and soft. Oh, na Shamanic drumming is a trance induction process, so it's normal. Yeah, absolutely. Many people begin to spontaneously tone when they begin to self-induce trance states. Music, performance, drums, ecstatic things, exercise can induce trance states. Dance is very common. There's many ways trance states can be induced. Many people induce trance states through mortification, through pain. But we don't necessarily need to do that. It can be done. It can be powerful in its own context. But really, once we begin to understand how easily we can self-induce trance states, and yes, Guy, drums are just amazing. I love using drums during our healings and tonings. Oftentimes, the star will bring in the drums, and we have the crystal singing bowls. We do sometimes do the bowls and things like that live. I found that, at least with the tech that we have, that it doesn't always translate especially well to the online format, but we may be doing more of that in the future, depending on the demand for such things. So I want to thank all of you for taking some time to connect. And the next couple of lessons I'll be doing over the next 2 days will actually be digging in more to these trance self-induction techniques, because we want to make sure that we know how to get to that place. We want to make sure that we know how to get to the place that is best for the inner work that we want to do. We want to make a science out of these practices. We want to make a repeatable process. And this is what we've been doing. And we found that most people with these techniques can self-induce trance states very readily. Now, what happens in those trance states once people get there, that varies quite a bit. And that is also what we focus on during the meat of this course after these first few lessons. So this is just a version, a kind of abbreviated version of the Akashic Trancework initiation series that we'll be starting an intensive version of on January 15th. So if any of you want to really dive into these materials, if you would like to have recorded journeys, we have 28 recorded journeys. We have trance scripts you can use to induce trances in other people. We have written materials. We have a lot of information that we go through intensively in 9 weeks. So this is just really a sample of what we offer, but we're happy to provide this information to the community for free as well, as much as we can. So I will commit to doing the rest of these sessions. We'll be doing 19 more of these over the next 19 days so that each of you has an opportunity to explore who you are on the inside. So thanks all of you for taking some time to watch. If you're still watching, we really appreciate you. And if you're still watching this, if you're still here, then I want to offer you a free 20-minute session with me. So hit me up if you would like to do that. It's your sort of present for staying on this long. And if you just joined, I'll give it to you too. Hey, Christina. All right. Well, deepest blessings, all of you. Until next time.